welcome. Today we're going to be going over my April reads and then picking our May TBR. So let's go ahead and hop right into it. April was a really good reading month for me, quantity-wise. Quality did start to falter toward the end of the month. I'm not even going to lie. So we had a pretty strong start with Nocticadia. This one was on our TBR. It took me a hot minute to get into it. I believe this is the book that's taken me the longest to read so far this year. It took me over a week, but she's chunky. So we knew we'd be invested. But I absolutely love this. I ended up giving it 4.75 stars, mainly because I feel like this is what Gothicana thought it was giving, but it didn't actually give. Like we had, like the actual intrigue of, like a subplot of something else going on that was, like beyond just like weird witch shit. Like this was actually like science-based subplot, which I thought was way more interesting. Like we are, set in a college and our main character is going to school there. She got accepted on, like a scholarship based on a paper she wrote about her mom's passing. And so then she meets this professor, and he is basically researching the parasite that she thinks is responsible for her mom's death. There were a couple of kind of like subplot, side plot storylines that I'm not 100% sure why they were included. Like, they didn't really add anything to the story. There was like a whole secondary drama of the main character trying to raise money for her sister's school, because her sister goes to like a special academy for like kids with like PTSD, I guess, because her sister was, like witnessing her mother's passing. And then there's also a weird subplot with the guy who, like, I guess is her, how do I explain their relationship? Her mom is dating a guy when she passes, and this guy basically becomes her and her sister's like legal guardian, and he decides to rent out the room that was her mom's bedroom in their house, like to like make rent money. He decides to like rent out her room once she passes, and there was a whole subplot with that man that ends up being their roommate, and they were roommates. But yeah, that was a whole other confusion thing. Yes. But overall, did give this a 4.75 stars. And like I said, this is everything that Gothicana wanted to be, but wasn't. Yeah, really good. Was worth it. We loved it. So the next 3 books that I read in the month of April are from my blind date with a book video. That is my most recent upload. So we're going to try to like rapid fire those super, super quick. So first one is Long Shot by Kara Porter. And this one is a sapphic tennis romance between an up-and-coming tennis star and a like child prodigy tennis star who is, like trying to make it in the adult scene of tennis. Okay, so back to Long Shot. This one I ended up rating a 4.5 stars. Did really enjoy it. It is part of a series of interconnected standalones, so I might end up picking up the other ones at some point. I know that the entire series is available on Kindle Unlimited. The next book that I picked up in the month of April is another one from my blind date with a book mystery boxes. And so this one is My Grumpy Billionaire. This one follows Sierra, and she is a like CEO of a company, and she goes on vacation to celebrate her divorce where she meets Griffin. And once they get back from their little vacation in New Orleans, they realize that their lives are a little bit more intertwined than they had originally realized, and they're not really strangers who can part ways quite as easily. It does have a really good amount of forced proximity, which I enjoyed. There was supposed to be fake dating, but they didn't really do that for very long. I actually ended up giving this one a 4.25. And that brings us to the last book that I read in my blind date with a book video, and that was The Cursed Prince. This one is the first book in the Night Elves trilogy by C.N. Crawford. So it features a post-apocalyptic world with Norse mythology, which was kind of my first foray into Norse mythology. So that was kind of fun and really interesting. I did enjoy it, but I feel like the storyline was a little bit more predictable for my liking. Like, it was a good twist, but I I could see it coming. So I ended up giving this one a 4-star, but I do think I will be continuing on with the series. And I believe that even though it is just a trilogy, there is even more like storyline after. Like it's connected series, if that makes sense. Like there's this trilogy, but it's connected to a different trilogy. Do we? Yeah, we understand that. The next book that I ended up picking up in the month of April is Remarkably Bright Creatures. This one, it was on the TBR and it was recommended to me by my coworker, Dr. Miller. So I ended up picking it up. I ended up giving it a 4.5 stars. I'm not a big lit fic girly. I'm not super into literary, like I need something else going on besides people just living their everyday lives. And I think the reason I rated this so high is even though it is literary fiction and you are following Tova, who is a retiree who is, helping to clean the aquarium in her free time. Even though you are following her and it gets a little bit mundane at some points, there's a secondary plot line of a man coming to the town that Tova lives in to try to find his birth father. His mom was not in his life, left him with his aunt, so his aunt raised him, and he wants to find like any other family he has besides, his aunt and his mom who he already knows. So he's looking for his birth father. And so he ends up taking a job at the aquarium as well, kind of befriending Tova and also the octopus. We do get chapters in the octopus, Marcellus, his point of view. And I thought that that was super fun and super interesting. I did do this one as immersive reading. So I did the audiobook while I was reading. And I think that that really helped with the experience and really kind of created that vibe. So like I said, 4.5 stars. I would recommend this if you are like skeptical about how much you would like literary fiction. I do think this one is worth the hype. All right, next up was Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series. I ended up giving this one a 5 stars. This one follows Winter, who is the FMC from Flawless's sister, and she's kind of known for being like this ice queen. She's known for being really standoffish and cold, and so she ends up getting with Theo, who is the kind of protege for Rhett, who is the main male character from Flawless. So I feel like it is kind of like a direct bridge over from Flawless, even though we've had 2 books kind of in the middle. Those characters weren't as integral to the plot point as this, whereas this is kind of like Summer and Winter rebuilding their relationship, and then Theo kind of like stepping up and being into his own now that Rhett has retired from Flawless, like since Flawless. So I did really enjoy this one. It does feature the surprise pregnancy trope, which I thought that I was going to hate because I usually do hate it, but there is a bit of a time jump. So you don't really have to deal with quite so much of like baby stuff, if that makes sense. Like by the time we've jumped forward, Vivian, the baby, is like 9-ish months old, and that's when Theo finds out about her. So it's not like going into like super newborn, like super fresh. Overall, I did really enjoy this. It was really good, really fast paced. I believe I finished this in like 2 or 3 days just because I like could not put it down. I didn't want to stop reading it. And it was just also refreshing to see a female main character who was the grumpy one. I feel like a lot of Chestnut Springs, the guys are the grumpy brooding ones and the girls are just happy-go-lucky, sunshiny. So it was kind of fun to get that reverse dynamic. The next book that I picked up in the month of April is The Time I Got Drunk and Needed a Love Potion at a Werewolf. This one I ended up giving 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it, but the one critique that I do have, and I think that this is also my problem with the other Kimberly Lemming book that I had, is that the solution is always quicker than it should be. Like there's so much buildup, there's so much lead up to all this tension, all of this stuff, and then it's figured out 2 pages later, and we're good. And I was just like, huh, what? But other than that, had a really good time. It was super fun. So in this one, we are following Bree and Felix. So Bree accidentally, like the title says, yeets a love potion at a werewolf, and he looks at her for the first time and is like, oh my god, you're my mate. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm definitely not. I just threw a love potion at you. So they kind of have to like test it out and see if the love potion will wear off. But Felix is so like bound and determined that she's his soulmate that he like moves into her house and is like, I'm going to protect you and save you. There is also a subplot of like a mystery going on. Women are disappearing from their town. So her and Felix and Sin and Fallon from the first book in this series decide to all kind of team up and see like what is going on with these missing, disappearing women. And so that was kind of the subplot that I think wrapped up a little too nice and neatly and a little too quickly. But other than that, I was mainly here for the romance. Really liked Bree and Felix together. I feel like they were very similar but different, if that makes sense. Also, Bree is a romance girly. She reads books and she has a whole library in her house. So Felix reads some of her books to get ideas as to what she likes, which I thought was super cute. So yes, gave this one a 4.5 star. She's tiny, she's baby, she's little. So we do really like that. I think that's the one thing that I also like about Kimberly Lemming's books is they're small, they're short, but then that leads us to wrapping up a little too soon. The next book that we picked up in April was also off of our TBR, and it is Woke Up Like This by Amy Leah. This one is kind of like a 13 going on 30 retelling, I guess you could say. So we are following our main character, Charlotte, and she is on like the prom committee. She's a senior in high school. She's like ready to go to prom, ready to go off to college, all of these things. And she falls while setting up for prom, and her like rival nemesis, Renner, are both transported to being 30 years old, and they find out that they're engaged. And so they have to kind of work backwards and figure out like what exactly had happened to lead us to end up together at 30, which I thought was super interesting. We kind of explore themes of like drifting apart, just maturing and realizing what comes along with, you know, being a 30-year-old grown up adult person when you're still kind of in the mind of a 17-year-old. And so I thought that was super interesting. I was kind of hoping it would have that scene in 13 going on 30 where she's like getting a taxi to go stop Maddie from getting married, and like the taxi driver is the guy that she liked. I was waiting for that scene to happen, but it doesn't. But like she meets up with the girl who is, you know, like her best friend in high school, and she realizes that they've just like drifted apart. Her friend is, you know, like a serial dater in high school and like always has a boyfriend, but at 30 years old she decides that that's not for her. She doesn't want to be identified as, you know, who she's dating and who she's with. She wants to be her own person. And so that was super interesting, super unique kind of take on, you know, growing up and having things be different than they are. So I did really enjoy this one. Like I said, gave it a 5 stars. It was YA, but it didn't feel YA since they were 30 for a good chunk of the book. In total, they're only high schoolers for like a quarter or a third of the book, which to me like is not that big of a deal. And there's like enough other things going on that it doesn't feel like they're children and it doesn't feel like bogged down. So I did really enjoy that aspect of it, that it felt like it was still reading like it was for adults, which was nice. I will be so honest. This is where things go downhill a little bit for the month. Just a little bit. I read Six of Crows, which we know we put on the TBR. We know it's part of my 25 to read in 2025. But oh my Lanta, do I hate heist books? Do I just not like the heist plot line? Like, thinking about it, a heist sounds so fun. I love Ocean's 11. That's a heist movie. So I should, in theory, like heist books. This is my second heist book of the year, and another one that I did not love, which is so unfortunate. So this one, we are following Kaz, and he is kind of a leader of an underground group in Ketterdam is the place that they live, I guess. And so he is tasked with putting together a group of people to help like break this man out of prison. There's this man who has come up with a compound that is able to make the people who are like witches in this society, it's able to make their powers like amplified and stronger. And so they find out that this man is in prison in like where the witch hunters live. So this group hunts the witches, but they have the guy who's making things that amplify witch power. So they're tasked with breaking him out. We get this ragtag team together. And that's where I think a lot of it falls apart for me, is I did not really understand why some people were there. And I was really only reading for 2 characters, like romance subplot, because it's witch hunter. And we know that trope has it's taken me in a chokehold really this year. Never read Witch Hunter until Heartless Hunter in January, and now that's become easily my number one trope. I'm obsessed with it. So I'll try to explain this quickly so I don't like bore the shit out of you guys if you do actually like heist books. Because I guess I don't. Maybe I just don't like heist books. But the main thing that kept me going was the subplot between Nina and Matthias, I believe is his name. And so basically, Nina got captured. She was on his ship, and he was one of the guards, like tasked with watching her and like making sure that she made it back to where they were going. They end up getting shipwrecked. She realizes that she's like free and able to like swim to land, but she sees him like he's the only person that she sees that survives this like shipwreck. And so she helps him get to shore. She decides like, okay, like we're in this for the long haul. We'll get to, the main civilization, land, whatever. And so they end up, having their moment of like surviving this like super terrible tragedy where everyone else basically is like not recovered. And so they, like make the trek from where they washed up on shore to the nearest like port with civilization. And from there, it kind of goes on to like show that they went their separate ways after that. Matthias still holds a grudge over why they ended up getting separated from there because he had started to see like, okay, the witches aren't bad people. They're just regular people with powers. And so they end up being tasked to get back together through this little ragtag team. There's also, like I said, Kaz is our main character and he's the main one that we follow. But he has a kind of spy that he has tasked with, helping them on this mission. She's usually super quiet and able to like gather all this information, but he's like super down bad for her, but doesn't actually give any reasons of why he likes her. And like in her point of view, she kind of likes him, but all of his messaging is so like twisted and like convoluted and she can't tell if he actually likes her. So that one was kind of frustrating. And then there's two other characters, Jesper and Waylon, I think was his name. And they flirt. And that was super cute. I liked that a lot. So mainly I was here for the romance. There wasn't a lot of it. I'm pretty sure we get like a peck on the lips, maybe. Maybe a peck. But we weren't getting any real, true, actual romance here. Which maybe that was why I wasn't having that great of a time. Is that like they were alluding to romance. But yeah, honestly, if I didn't have the audiobook to follow along to with this one, I seriously would not have been able to make it through this book. I gave it a 3.75, and it probably would have been a 3.5 if there wasn't the audiobook. And it wasn't even like an audiobook. It was literally a girl reading it on YouTube because I couldn't find the audiobook anywhere that I have a membership for. I do Spotify, I do Everand. They both did not have Six of Crows. So I literally listened to like a teenager reading it. I mean, she's great. She should be like a professional book narrator. Like I think she'd be really good at it. But without that, I wouldn't have made it through. It would have killed me. The next book that I picked up in the month of April is Daisy Darker. This was again from my TBR off of my 25 books to read in 2025. I accidentally saved my 25 books to read in 2025 picks for like the very end of the month. Like quite literally Six of Crows, Daisy Darker, and By a Thread were the last 3 reads of the month. So maybe I wasn't as excited to read them as I thought I was, which is kind of unfortunate. So this one we are following Daisy Darker, and her family gets together for her grandma's 80th birthday. And things take a turn from there. Her grandma lives on a secluded island, so when the tide comes up, they can't like get boats or like emergency vehicles couldn't come. So when they wake up and it's midnight and her grandma has been unalived, they kind of have to solve the mystery from there. I gave this one a 3.75 as well, very similar to Six of Crows, for 2 reasons. And they're both spoilers. So, because I'm a girl's girl, I don't want to spoil anything for you. But also because I'm a yapper, I'm going to put a timestamp for when it's okay to jump back in. And I'm going to say why I did not like this. So, here's your warning now. We're getting into spoiler territory. I don't do this often. But I want you guys to know why this was a no for me. Okay, so timestamp is up. Skip to that portion of the video if you don't want to know why I didn't like this book. Okay, we're getting into spoilers now. So, the main reason why I didn't like this book is it features two of my least favorite, I guess, tropes. The first one being that everyone is unlikable. Why do I read about a book if every character in the book sucks? Literally everyone in Daisy's family is like the worst person ever. I mean, her grandma has some pretty redeeming qualities. I did like her grandma a lot, but her grandma's also like low key crazy. So, like, half the things she did didn't really make any sense. And you could tell that she also like coddled the shit out of her son, who is Daisy's like father. You can tell that she coddled the shit out of him because he's like a complete arrogant asshole. He's like a conductor or something. And so he abandons his family. Hi, beautiful. So he abandons his family to like be a part of the symphony or the orchestra or whatever, like leaves his whole family behind. Daisy's mother did not want her. They have two like older daughters, and then Daisy's the baby of the family. And she, I believe, was like 7 years younger than her two siblings. Like they were like right back to back, and then they waited a couple years to have Daisy. And so Lily and Rose are her sisters, and Rose thinks she's better than everyone. Rose, unfortunately, is a veterinarian and thinks that she's so smart and so cool and so good, which is so unfortunate because I don't know a lot of veterinarians. I work in the pet health veterinary field. So I know a lot of veterinarians. I don't know a lot of them who are as narcissistic, egotistical, just downright vicious as Rose, because Rose doesn't care about anyone but herself. Like, that's the thing. It's like Rose is getting what Rose wants, which is unfortunate. Lily is the middle daughter, and she's exactly like their mother. She only cares about herself. She's very vain, only wants what she wants, which again is like unfortunate. She has a daughter named Trixie, and Trixie is the other kind of redeemable character in the book. But also with Trixie, she's supposed to be 15. She reads 10, if I'm being 100% honest. She reads like such a small child. Like she's so young, it feels like. She's always described as wearing like pink. She's always described as having like her big head of messy curls. And like she's asleep for like so much of the book because her mom, Lily, drugged her. Her mom didn't want her to be involved in this mystery. So she drugs her and gives her sleeping pills. And I'm like, why would you do that? Besides the point. Okay, so those are all like the garbage other characters. And then we have Daisy. And I'm not going to tell you guys the twist of like what is up, but Daisy does not have a concept of the real world, it seems like. Like she thinks she knows what's going on, but she's so far off. There's also this other character that is like their neighbor that is like a childhood friend. His name's Connor. And he honestly is just such a typical man. Like he wants to, like be involved in all these things. He wants to take charge, but he doesn't actually know what he's doing. So yeah, basically every character sucked. I didn't actually like any of them. I really just wanted to see what the mystery kind of was and how it would unfold. And the twist did get me. I did not see the twist coming. But after the twist is where our second what the fuck I hate this trope kind of pops up. We're led to believe that this book, Daisy Darker, is written by Daisy Darker, the character. The end of the book happens, and quite literally at the end of the last chapter, she's like, I sit down at my typewriter and I write my story. I hate that trope. What is that trope even called? It's happened in so many books. It happens in Gothicana. That's literally how Gothicana ends, is they make a bunch of money writing the story of what happened. And I don't like that trope. It's a weird trope. It doesn't make sense. Why would I read this book that's a fantasy? Well, I mean, this one's not a fantasy, but why would I read this book that is a fantasy if you're telling me that it's based on like, I just don't like when at the end of the book they act like the characters in the book wrote the book. Like, I hate that. And so that happens in this one as well. So that's how we get to our 3.75. Very sorry. Wish I liked it more. I will be reading more Alice Feeney because I do like her writing style. She's also British. So the audiobook is British, which was really cute. But those two things factored in, dislikable characters and having it be a book that was written by our main characters, I can't get behind it. It was a no for me, dog. So sorry. And this brings us to what I was hoping would be my last read of the month, but unfortunately, she's not done yet. It's literally May 3rd. We're on May 3rd. And I have yet to finish this. This might take the cake as the book that's taken me the longest to finish this year, because it's going to take me longer than it took me to read Nocticadia. So by a thread, we're following Allie. She has multiple jobs, but she's working as a waitress when she meets Dominic and his mother. She has a spat with Dominic. She writes F you in pepperoni on his pizza, and he gets her fired from the pizzeria she's been working at. So Dominic's mother is like, hey, I actually really like you. You should come work at my company, because his mother owns the magazine that Dominic is the creative director at. So she ends up going to work with this magazine. It's very much giving The Devil Wears Prada. It's basically that for like the first big chunk. But instead of Meryl Streep, it's like a super hot, tatted man, which in theory is great. In theory, we like. But it took us about 150-ish pages to get like a good banter going. Originally, they hate each other, and then they decide, like, okay, maybe if we get to know each other more, we'll like each other more. And then they start emailing. And that was where they got me. That's where I was like, oh my God, wait, this is actually really cute. They like start telling each other like little tidbits and calling each other funny little nicknames. And that's where things get cute. And then we verge off into like a bunch of other like random plots. Like it felt like we were just like adding things for them to do, for them to have more things to do. Which I mean, like, I guess to make 500 pages happen, you gotta have to keep doing extra stuff. But the main reason why Dominic is kind of fighting his attraction for Allie, even though he does want to be with her, is his dad is who he replaced. His dad was the creative director before, and his dad used his position of power as the creative director to like seduce women who worked for this magazine. His dad was basically the worst, and so Dominic is scared that if he approaches Allie in a way that's like, I want to date you, she's going to get scared off and he's going to look like a predator like his father, which is a pretty valid fear, not going to lie. But, and this is my main gripe with why I think this has taken me so long, is they keep mentioning how old these main characters are, and I don't mind older MCs. I love Mariana Zapata, and a lot of her characters end up being in their late 30s, early 40s. I believe a couple of them have been like close to 50. I think All Roads Lead Here. He was like older. I was like, I really don't mind that. But like, this man will be over here like, I can't believe that at 44 years old, I have a crush. And then tell Allie she looks ugly before she goes on a date with another man. Like, I can't believe you're 44 years old and acting like a toddler. Like, that's what I can't get over. And then like, they went out and did like a like runway show, like to support a designer they partner with. And then Dominic goes out and immediately writes a new clause that like there's no fraternization between employees of the magazine and designers to prevent Allie from dating this designer. After Allie has explicitly said, I would like to date you, Dominic, and he doesn't say anything back. So yeah, I think that that's what is taking me out of it a little bit and making it hard to read. I will admit that last night is the most I've read in a single sitting. I think I read about 100, like 130-ish pages, which like in a beast like this, that's not much. It's like a fifth of the book, but it was something, because I'm pretty sure the first 2 days I read like 20 pages total, because I could not get into it. It just was like pulling teeth to get interested. But we're finally at the good part. I think I have about 190, like almost 200 pages left. So fingers crossed I can finish this weekend, but I can already tell this is not going to be any higher than a 4-star, which is unfortunate. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So now that we've gone over our April reads, let's go ahead and get the TBR dice game and start rolling some dice to pick our May reads. We've returned to do the TBR dice game. So usually we've been picking 8 books to add to the TBR. I've read more than 8 books, I think every month this year so far. But in May, I already know that there's going to be a whole solid week where I'm not reading. I work in sales for a pet food company, and we will be doing our national meeting in Orlando, Florida. And I always bring multiple books and read 2 pages. I never finish the books I bring. And I'm also going to Disney World while we are in Orlando with my besties. So I know for sure we're not reading for a full week this month. Like, it's just not going to happen. So instead of setting myself up for failure and picking 8 books, I figured we'll go ahead and pick 6, just lessen it by 2, and see if 6 is a good number. I think 6 will be doable. Fingers crossed I finish by a thread, either today or tomorrow, and then I can get on with the rest of the books. Because, like, I'll definitely be reading during the flight there and back. So that should knock out at least 1 book in the whole week, which is a lot slower than I'm used to. So let's go ahead and do just 6. That sounds nice and easy. Okay, our first one is 6 and 5. So all the way over to 6, 5. With the band. Okay, I fully forgot that I put that as a prompt on here. I actually don't know what banned books I have in my, like, that sounds really terrible and really bad, but I want to read more banned books. So let's go find a banned book somewhere in my library. So for banned books, I already knew I don't own a ton of them, which is unfortunate because I would like to read more of them. But I do own 2 that I found pop up on a couple of different lists when I did a little bit of digging. The first one that I have that popped up on most lists is 1984 by George Orwell. I have owned this copy, if I'm being completely honest, I've owned this copy for well over 5 years. I purchased this when I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on an internship. So that would have been 2019. So I should probably read this. I don't know a ton about it. I do know that it's set in 1984 and was written well before that. And it basically is about the society that they thought we might potentially have in 1984. And it seems very controlling, very, like, no power to the people, if that makes sense. So this is book 1 that we could pick. The other one that I saw pop up on a couple of lists, not as many, was The Great Gatsby. Which, if I'm being completely honest, I did just read a Great Gatsby retelling, so I'm not really in the mood for Great Gatsby. I also don't really know much about why this one is banned. I know that it talks about, like, the American dream, and that tends to kind of rub people the wrong way. So I'm assuming that's probably why it's banned. So yeah, this is an option, but I don't think it's the option we're going with this go around. So I think that 1984 is officially making its way onto our TBR for this month, which is very interesting. So we've officially made our first selection for the TBR. Let's go ahead and roll again. Now we have 5 and 6. Interesting. So 5 over, 6 down. First to see on Goodreads. This one has given us a couple of interesting ones. So I'm kind of excited to see what it pops up this time, but I'm also nervous. So let me pull up Goodreads and let me get screen record starting. Okay, so I don't own any of those first 3. I don't own any of these. Did Goodreads, like, reformat? I feel like I'm not used to it looking like this. Okay, more that I don't... These are all new releases. Like, I don't own any of them because they just came out. I do want to read Great Big Beautiful Life, but I own every other Emily Henry book in paperback, so we're not going to go out and buy that one. There's like a helicopter flying outside, and it's kind of bothering me because I really don't own any of these books. So far, nothing. Fearless. Fearless is the first one we've come across that I do own. Okay, that's exciting. Took us a solid minute of scrolling, but we got there. Okay, the funny thing is there's 2 other books on that page, and I own both of those as well. So Fearless was the first one we saw, so we're going with Fearless. Yes, here she is. I have the Barnes exclusive version with the pretty foiling red Fearless, and I think the like white rose petals, so that's super exciting. I'm super looking forward to this, but also, why is it so chunky? Why is it so chunky? It is the 3rd book and the final book in the Powerless trilogy by Lauren Roberts. We start off the series with our main character, Payton, I believe is her name, and is, oh my god, what do they call them in the book? Ordinary? Yes, they do call them ordinary. The first word in this little synopsis page is literally ordinary born. Yeah. Yes. The ordinaries don't have powers, but everyone else has powers, and if you're born ordinary, you basically don't get to live in their society. They either kill you, that's usually what happens, or you get like exiled and like sent into like the desert. And so Payton is ordinary, but she's been faking as a psychic in the slums, and she accidentally meets one of the princes. She meets Kai, and like gets summoned for these trials and games, and that's what the first Powerless book is about, and we kind of follow her story from there. So I'm super excited to see where we end up going with the 3rd and final book in this installment. That's exciting. That literally just came out last month. Okay, so next up, okay, I'm rolling again because I picked 5 and 6 again. Okay, we're shaking extra hard. 3 and 3. Okay, that's exciting. 3 and 3. 3. Author duo. Okay, that's exciting. We haven't gotten author duo. If I'm being completely honest, the only author duo I can think of off the top of my head is Christina Lauren. So I should probably go with the Unhoneymooners, since that is a Christina Lauren book, and it's on my 25 books to read in 2025. But I'm going to see if I have any other author duo books, because I feel like I'm always shocked every time I find out about a different author duo, because there's so many author duos that don't say first and last name, first and last name. Like they literally will combine their names, like Christina Lauren. Christina and Lauren, they're 2 different people, but they write their name as one name. And I'm always mind blown when I find out that there's 2 authors when they do that. It like always bamboozles me. So let's see what other author duo books I have, and we'll go from there. Okay, so there were significantly fewer author duos than I realized. So like I said, Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren is immediately where my brain went, and this is the book we're putting on the TBR, mainly because the only other author duo books I found were all like Kindle Unlimited reads, and they either aren't on my top 25 books to read in 2025, or I just straight up wasn't super interested right now. I mean, this one obviously is like a contemporary romance, but the other one that I found is a fantasy romance, and I'm not really feeling adding another fantasy onto a fantasy and a dystopian, because this is one that I thought of adding. Cuxtall Academy, I think is how you say this. It is by Nell Nicole and Michaela D. Hornetto. I met them at Books, Gowns, and Crowns last October. They're lovely people, but I'm not really feeling the dark academia fantasy vibes of this one right now. And then the other one that I have that I thought about adding is Neverkeep, and that is by the writing duo from Zodiac Academy, which again, fantasy. Not really feeling adding fantasy onto a TBR that's already only fantasy dystopian. So that's kind of where my thought process went and why I'm going with the On Honeymooners instead. We need something light, happy, cutesy. I really thought I'd be like drowning in fantasy, or not fantasy. I really thought I'd be drowning in author duo options, but if I'm not in a fantasy mood, I guess I'm not, which is unfortunate. Okay, so that is our third book. So we have 3 more. 1 and 3. Okay, that's kind of exciting. 1 and 3. The title jar. Okay, this is extra exciting. So before doing this TBR like dice game, I decided I wanted to try doing the little title jar that I feel like everyone else does, where they just write book titles, put it in a jar, and like pull little slips of paper out. So I have one started. I have not taken a look at it in months. I'm pretty sure that's where my January TBR came from, when my mom helped me pick my TBR. And that's the only time I've really used it. So there might be some titles in there that I have already read so far, but we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to go grab the jar. It literally hangs out on my fantasy bookshelf right outside of my office. So I'm going to go grab that jar and we'll see what that gives us. I have returned with the jar. And since I am a mood reader at heart and I did not want to accidentally pick a genre I don't feel like reading, I did color code it. So we have pink slips for romance, green is fantasy, blue is mystery thriller, and then I threw in some orange ones last spooky season to get me to read some spooky books. So I think, given our current predicament of dystopian, fantasy, and then romance, I think I'm going to go with a mystery thriller. I really hope I don't regret that. We'll go with you. Wait a second. I got the colors wrong. Is green mystery thriller? Green is mystery thriller and blue was fantasy. Okay, I'm kind of glad that I did accidentally pull a slip for a book I've already read. That's kind of hilarious. But yeah, green is our mystery thriller option. So let's actually pull a green one now. Okay, green. I really don't want to read this one. Dang it. Dang. Okay, let me go find it. So it probably is for the best that I picked this to put on the TBR. So if I don't end up reading it, or if I don't like it, I can just unhaul it. It's called 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. If I'm being completely honest, I impulse bought this at Half Price Books when I got back into reading. Very similarly to the majority of the books in my 25 books to read in 2025. With this one, we are following Marguerite Kane, who grew up surrounded by cutting-edge scientific theories thanks to her brilliant physicist parents. Her mom has a latest innovation device called the Firebird that allows people to leap into alternate dimensions. So her father is murdered, and all the evidence point to Paul, her parents' star student, but he slips into another dimension, having committed basically the perfect crime, but he doesn't count on our main character Marguerite to find him. So with the help of another physics student, Theo, Marguerite chases Paul through various dimensions. In each new world Marguerite leaps into, she meets another version of Paul that has her doubting his guilt and questioning her heart. So, pretty exciting, but also, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this. This sounds too sci-fi. Oh well, we'll make it work. It's added to the TBR. So that was book number 4. We have 2 more to pick. Let's give the dice another roll. 1 and 6. So 1 and 6. TV or film adaptation. Okay, we got this one last time, and that's how we ended up with 6 of Crows. That's right. Okay, so this might take me a second, because if I remember right, the only other option I have is To All the Boys I've Loved Before. But let me look at the shelves. Let's see if we can find something else, because I feel like I have to have something else that is an adaptation or has an adaptation coming out. Okay, am I kind of cheating? No, because it's my game. I make the rules. And Heartstopper has a TV adaptation on Netflix. I do remember hearing that the last season is going to be the last season, and they're finishing up the storyline by making a movie of the last 2 books, I believe. But we're gonna go with this one as our TV adaptation, Heartstopper. It's a graphic novel, so it's a little bit quicker of a read, and I'm hoping that that will help me out. So that is book number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here is our last roll, which is kind of scary because I feel like this TBR is all over the place and not in a great way, but oh well. 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Standalone. Okay, interesting. I think the last time I got this prompt, I ended up going with a mystery, since we knew for sure a mystery would be a standalone. Okay, so that took significantly longer than I thought it would to find a standalone that I want to read, but I figured it out. We're going to go with First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I'm 99.9% sure it's a standalone, and everyone's been telling me to read it. We literally talked about it at book club the other day. So, all I know about this one is that it's kind of like Sleepless in Seattle. It's about a single mom whose daughter calls into a radio show trying to get her mom a boyfriend. And the radio hosts like a segment about love, but he's kind of like cynical about it and like doesn't believe in love. I have this fancy, pretty Afterlight edition with the sprayed edges and the end pages and the pretty cover. So I'm very excited to finally get to this one. I'm looking forward to it a lot. And I think that this will be a good romance to just add to my pile of not super romancy things. Because I feel like we started off kind of darker, kind of heavy. So since this is our last one in the TBR, let's go ahead and review everything that we've put on our May TBR. So we have First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. We have Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. We have 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. We have Fearless by Lauren Roberts. And then our last book in the TBR is 1984 by George Orwell. Lots of diversity this month, honestly. For only picking 6 books, I think this is the widest array of books I could have gotten. We have dystopian, we have fantasy, we have romance, we have sci-fi, like we have everything. Like the whole gambit is here. We will see how many of these books actually get read. Like I said, I won't be reading for a full week this month, but I do think that this book will be super easy to knock out. I'm pretty sure this is on Kindle Unlimited, so I can read it on the plane. Probably the same for Fearless, so we'll see how this goes. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this video, spending a little bit of time talking books with me. If you make it to the end of the video, go ahead and comment the cat emoji. My cats have been, I look like I'm killing her. My cats have been in, both cats have been in the video today since Pippa's deciding to be super interested in what I'm doing. So yeah, since both of my cats were in the video today, comment a cat emoji. Even if you're not a cat person, hi pretty girl. I am a cat person, so go ahead and comment. Let us know that you're shouting out little Pippa and Opal, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye! Oh my god, it feels like it's been so long since I've done this. I feel like April was the longest month of my life. Okay, so today's video we are going to be covering my April reads. I hated how I phrased that. May just started, girl. We're 3 days in. Back to story time. I already kind of forgot where we were. They have, hi pretty girl. Hi my angel. What are you doing? You're helping me with the video? Yeah. Hi Gorge. You're so happy. I'm just making myself sound like I hate children, which isn't exactly true. I just rather have a cat. He was pretty old. Oh, that sounds so mean. Okay, so now that we've gone over our April, it's April. Yummy. We love snacks. Oh. I love how she waited until I turned on the mic so we can just hear her chonking. Opal's just moving the camera wherever she wants. It's her world and we all just live in it. Hi, baby. Very interesting. Okay. And so they, who's they?
I feel like I need to find it. This one. Aha. That was so quick. Hi, baby boy.
Let me put this jar away. That burp was disgusting. Listen. Oh my god, I just like punched the book. I thought her name was Alex. That's embarrassing. So I'm pretty excited.